So today I'm making some Project Life cards, and I'm going to do it using a homemade jelly plate. I've got a friend who's had one, and she thinks it's the best thing ever. And so instead of investing in one before I knew whether I liked it, I thought I would make my own, which I made just using gelatin, just from the baking oil and hot water. I went with a smaller one for one reason, because I had the container, and for the other one I thought it would be perfect for adding some embellishments to some little Project Life cards. I've also pulled out some yellow paint and some blue paint, just plain usual acrylics, and I've just gathered a few bits and pieces to make masks and textures with on my jelly plate. So we're just, oh, I think I've gone too much there. So I'm just using a brayer to spread it out. This is actually my letter pressing brayer, but it does the job. I'm all about making the most of what I've got rather than buying new supplies. So that just spreads that ink out nice and thickly all over my plate. So as you can see there, it's kind of getting some lines in there, but I'm actually going to leave those there so that it adds to the texture of the plate. Then I'm also just using one of my stamps from my collection just to put some texture on the plate, which actually makes a mess of my stamp, but that's fine, I can clean that out later. I've also got some sequin waste, which a friend found and very kindly gave me some. This is one of my favourite things to use when I'm doing mixed media, so I thought that might be a bit of fun to add a bit of texture to my jelly plate. And I've also got this cute little stamp, which was also gifted to me by a friend, which I thought would be a great shape for adding in there. So now that that's done, that looks like that's got some good texture there, I'm just going to take my, I'm going to go with my grey Project Life card, I think. Actually no, I might do it on my orange one. And then it's just a matter of laying it down, pressing it down to get some pressure on there, give it a good coverage, and then gently peel it off, and we'll take a look. So there we've got a good base there, so I'm going to, later on I'll build upon that when I get to doing my Project Life page and add some further embellishments, but I quite like what we've done there. So we've still got a bit of paint left there, so what I might do is, I've actually got some other cardstock here. It's not Project Life card, but I will use it anyway just to pull another print off there, and then I can always just add that to my stash later on, to make something else with, some card making or something. So I've just washed that off just with plain water. I don't know whether you can see that it is actually breaking a little bit, which I guess is the downside of a homemade one, but it will still work for our purposes, and really it's not a huge deal. There are recipes online where you can make ones that last, where you add some glycerin, but this is just jelly and water, gelatin and water, so it's really a one-time use only thing anyway. I'll get the prints out of it that I want, so I'm not too stressed that crack isn't coming all the way through to the back yet, so it's not really a big deal. So I've tried to choose colours in my paints that are somewhat reminiscent of the honey kit, because I like everything to match and look nice and go together. So that paint's a little bit thick there, but that's alright, it's adding texture, and that crack is starting to come through, but again it's just adding texture. And I'm all about using the stuff that I've got, so I'm actually using my bookbinding awl. I thought would be good for just doodling in some shapes into the, yeah, you can see that crack's starting to come through. But I'll just draw that heart. There we go. Got it there now. So the other thing I wanted to try with this particular plate was some masking. So I'm just going to add a little bit of texture again. Again, it's just all about the texture. Now I also wanted to use some masks in this one, which will block out the paint onto the card and just create a little bit of interest. So I'm just using some wool that I don't use myself anymore. It's actually out of the kids' craft box. I also wanted to give a try. I've just made a little chevron type design just out of some printer paper. I chose this one because the honey kit has quite a few chevron motifs in it, so I'll put that something like that maybe. So then we just take our card, might go this bit towards the centre this time. Late yesterday lunchtime, and I left it all afternoon to set. I left it out on the bench for a little while. So about 4 hours later it was starting to get set, and then I ended up just putting it in the fridge overnight, so it was nice and firm by this morning. And I'll just pull that back there now. So yeah, so we've got that pattern there, we've got the masks in there, all the different textures there. So again, that'll I'll embellish that in other ways before I use it with Project Life. It just gives me a few options, and again I'll just use my spare card to pull a print with the leftover paint. Yeah, so that's not bad. I actually quite like that, and I can use that. Well, you can see there, the gelatin's starting to melt where I've washed it. I just washed it in water, and so that's probably causing it to melt a little bit. But yeah, I'm quite happy with that. This is actually my first go at jelly printing, so I'm sure as I get the hang of it, I'll be even more happier with my results. So that's probably a little bit more graphic than I'd expected it to be, the geometric look, but I quite like this one here. I quite like my blue one that I've got there. So yeah, so for, 10 minutes preparation and probably 10 cents worth of material, I quite like the effect. It's just something a little bit different that will make things special in my album.